Hello, I'm MK Davis. And last weekend I was privileged to attend a conference, a Cryptid conference that included Bigfoot. And I gave a presentation there. And what I want to do is post the material from that presentation on this YouTube channel and let folks who weren't able to attend get a good look at it and maybe on another occasion they can get away and be there live. But here we go. Let me move over to it. All right. This is it, the material that I presented at the Cryptid conference there in McMinnville, Tennessee. Now, let's just start. I began with an interest in what people were reporting when they said they saw a Bigfoot and it suddenly disappeared in a flash of light. Now, as far as a flash of light, I'm a student of physics and in certain ways, and I began to wonder what could it be. Assuming it's real. And so I began to kind of delve into it, look into it a little bit. And here's something like what I was finding, in general search.
Greetings, YouTube. Danny Staten here on the Daddy Dan blog. I'm in a field in the Spearman community of South Carolina. I'm on a incredible adventure. I'm on a Bigfoot investigation. I'm in the middle of a big stupid field looking for a spot that should show out, but it don't. So a truck driver up here on this highway 48 hours ago said he was passing by where I'm about standing now on the highway located up there. And this truck driver said, yeah, he saw a large hairy creature. What he described as a Bigfoot, flat face, cone head, covered in hair. Running through this field, right about middle of the screen where the camera would be. And he said, as it ran through the field, in a brilliant blast of light, a blinding flash of light, brighter than lightning, this big hairy creature vanished in the middle of this field. And I hear some people like Long Island Bigfoot and a few other guys talk about Bigfoots using portals and all that stuff. So I thought I would go out and give this one a little look over out of respect for the people who believe in this stuff. I'm not a big believer in portals, but I keep my mind open, so I guess I'm out here today investigating Bigfoot disappears in a portal, flash of light.
Okay, the truck driver saw it. Said he was looking at it, and it disappeared in a blinding flash of light. And so this gentleman decided he would go and investigate. That's all you can do is try. You probably, it's over with. You probably won't find anything, but you don't know unless you try. So here's the very famous Linda Moulton Howe on a case that she was on a few years ago.
Recordings. I don't know what the government has, but that is what has happened in Snohomish and that area of Washington and over into Canada and Montana and a lot of the Northwest have had probably the most Sasquatch encounters. And they're fascinating because who are these creatures that in a law enforcement offense report going back to 1975-76 time period, that this was also in Great Falls. And there was a rancher, it was hunting season, and he got his .30-06 rifle, and this ended up in a typed law enforcement report that I got to see and talk with Keith Wolverton at the Great Falls Sheriff's Department about this. And same Great Falls where the Minuteman missiles at Malmstrom, in that area. So it's a place where the Sasquatch have been seen in many ways. And in this particular instance, why I remember it so vividly and why I called Deputy Keith Wolverton to talk with him about this back in the late 79 to 80 when I was working on A Strange Harvest, is that I had heard, and then he read from the offense report, the rancher came around a bend with his rifle, and there standing, he said, was at least 8 foot tall. He said it was a reddish brown, and I think that the rancher back then called it a gorilla, and he just brought up his .30-06, shot, and this big Sasquatch disappeared in a flash of light. And I have seen the report where in a flash of light, disappeared in a flash of light, was italicized in the sheriff's office report.
Okay. So after a while, you know, if you just heard that one time, yeah, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But after a while, you see it more and more. You wonder. So what I did was to go back and check archives. And I said, well, the very best films out there is the Patterson Bigfoot film. And I asked myself, did Bigfoot disappear? I mean, did any Bigfoot disappear in a flash of light? Or were there even a flash of light at all in the Patterson film? And so, yes, there was. Let's just watch it there. If you'll see, you know, some people argued when I first found this flash that it was something that had fell off the film, the emulsion, and it caused the light to go straight through. But that's not what Kodak says. Kodak says it was a pinpoint source of light because it's on 2 frames, and it grows between the frames. And while the frames are actually moving, the camera was being handheld and panned. You see the background jumps just a little bit, but it remains emitting from that same spot. Okay. Here it is in the correct speed. And there is Patty, the subject of the film. Let's just go right over here. You can kind of see that it's on 2 frames because it grows in size. And I've had some people tell me, well, I got a copy of the film and it's not on my copy. I can't help that. And also, they said I only have it on 1 frame in my copy. I can't help that either. In the copy I had to work with, it was in 2 frames. And that's kind of the trouble you run into with a Patterson film, especially if you're trying to analyze it forensically. Because so many copies were made so fast that they really lost the handle on the film. The chain of possession is so important. You should know everywhere that film has been, anybody that's touched it. But they made copies and copies and copies and copies, and those people made copies, and those people made copies. And is there an original? You bet. But let's just move on. Okay, this is the same stretch of film. There's Patty. I got an arrow pointing to her. That's her back. She's back to us. And up here, it's just immediately after the flash of light. Flash of light right here. If you look, there's something begins to move. It swings its arm right there. And it's behind brush, but you can still see it through the brush. You can see the left arm come up right here above this arrow. It moves. And you can see the right arm swing back past the brush right there. And you can see this leg right here. And you see the head right here. Is that a second Sasquatch? I think it's likely. Is it associated with this flash of light? That's a good question. Let's move on. Now this is the copy that I got from Miss Patterson, and I've let it out. I've messed the chain of possession up. I sent a copy to survivor people. They couldn't afford what they were asking for the use of the film. And I think the film had doubled in price. Miss Patterson is not managing it anymore. She let her son manage it. And he essentially, since he wasn't that into Bigfoot, and he just priced it so high that he would get a chunk of change and not have to do it as often. And that's my theory. But anyways, that's theirs to do with. But this one right here is in public domain. And this is a spectacular frame from the film. It is so much sharper. And she told me it came off the original, and I believe it. And it was on a 4x5 transparency. And I could tell you a little story about the transparency that, she went up to the closet and got a shoebox out of the top of the closet and brought it to the table and said, look, I'm going to show you this. And she reached and got an envelope. And she pulled the envelope out, and coming with it, hanging on to the, it kind of just pull these transparencies out with it. And they fell to the floor. And she says, oh, those are Roger's negatives. And I said, no, these are not negatives. These are positives. And I held them up to the light, and I was just aghast at how clear they were. Oh, my goodness. And this is frame 352, the one that's in the public domain. Let me just make a copy of this. Hold on. I can explain what I'm about to get at here better if I take it over here to this program and let you see what I meant by that. All right, here we go. All right, let's just go right here. And I'm going to just lasso the whole entire face. All right. I was interested in this area right here, the teeth and the mouth. But I was also interested in why this was so shiny. And my first thoughts is, well, she's sweating, There's oil and no hair. But now I'm beginning to rethink that. Let's just boost the contrast. All right. All right. You finally reach a point where you can see the teeth. The mouth is open. You can tell that. This is the bottom lip right here, and there's the two teeth hanging out. And they're kind of crooked, kind of buck teeth. But by the time you get these where they're just visible, this is way overexposed. So it tells me that this thing is brighter than it even looks on the film. That it's completely shiny. It's overexposed. While this is properly exposed. Okay, well, let's move on. Great frame from the film. All right. Now, we'll just fast forward in time from 1967 to Harry Larry. Harry Larry was a Bigfoot that I managed to get on video about 1,500 feet up on a mountain on the other side of the Patterson film site. And I found what I considered to be a lair. It was a flat area on a 45-degree slope, and it had a little waterfall coming through it, and it had a deer carcass in there and tracks that were Bigfoot tracks. I didn't see the Bigfoot, but I saw the tracks, and they were too big to be my tracks or anyone else's other than a Bigfoot. All right, well, I become fascinated with the waterfall. I thought that was the most beautiful thing I'd seen. It's like a little piece of paradise in there. Ferns growing in the bottom down there you could lay on or whatever. And so I was filming that thing, and first I talked about, as I went in, I talked about how I didn't think that there was any Bigfoot any more than anywhere else there at Bluff Creek. And that's because I hadn't been privileged to see a lot at that time. I think this was 2008. And so I didn't know it, but as I was talking, there he was on the video. Well, look at that. Now, what I have since become interested in is that he's white, very white in the face. There I am filming that waterfall. Here he is in the pan. He comes up lower left. I brightened it up. Follow it on up and you'll see to the maximum brightness. And then you'll see that that white is on his face. It goes from side to side all the way. Now, I did some filtering on it. Let's see. Here he is brightened. I called him the lurker because he was lurking off in behind this brush, and he broke this limb off right here and laid it down. And you can see, now there may be a limb or something across there, I don't know, but you can see his face is white. If you go in on it, you'll see, first you might think, well, there's some of these leaves, but it's not. It's white behind the leaves. You'll see it on the black and white images. There we go. See him right there? That's that area between the straight down off the head there is kind of moved over. I'm in a different position. All right, come on. There we go. Black and white enlarged. Well, what does it mean for their face to be white? I'm going to get into that. And that don't mean that I know particularly everything that's going on there, but I know that something is. Here's got a good view of this broken tree right here. He snaps this tree off while I'm there. As he's leaving this lair as I am coming into the lair. I don't see him, but he breaks this tree limb off. Now, I'm going to let you listen to him actually do the breaking. I'm filming the waterfall. There he goes. All right, let's do it. Listen one more time. Here he is snapping this thing off. You don't think they can snap a limb? Wow, the power. All right. Now we're going to move over to a famous piece of footage. We're going to go from the Patterson film to the Paul Freeman footage. Now, what I was interested in the Paul Freeman footage, I was interested in seeing if I could brighten it up where you could see something in the background in that dark area. And maybe there might be another individual back there. So I worked on it. I filtered each frame and did each one exactly the same. And when I put it together, I put it in an animation. And I was very shocked at this. You see the sunshine is coming on its back. Watch. Suddenly it stops and looks, and all of a sudden there's a burst of energy that overexposes everything. Because I'm already at a pretty high level on filtering. So I can see all up inside this cavity up in here, off into the woods. And I'm looking for a second Bigfoot. Watch him. Now he's walking off now. I say a she. I'm most likely a she. I'll tell you why. When he looks back at him, when he looks back at Paul Freeman, his face lights up. Boom. It's like he got, you want to call it a zap? Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But I know one thing. It takes energy to do that. And when you watch and the zap or whatever it is over, you see the iris on the camera readjust. So I know positively that it was an actual flash. Watch them again. When it flashes over, watch the camera readjust. See it darken back down? That iris couldn't hardly keep up with it. It was such a intense and quick flash. Speedy, fast. Then it walks off. Now here's one in with unfiltered. Now watch its face. I'm going to oscillate it. See it? Let's look at it one more time. Watch its face. When it looks back, that face lights up. And that's not just the sun either. And I'll show you why. Here is a still from it. And this is the face right here. This is lit up on the sunny side, but it's still the entire face. No reason for it to overexpose like that. But then again, on the shady side, its face is still lit up. Now, whatever's going on with this thing, it seems to emanate or begin with the face. And I thought about some instances that I had heard about or read about when I was a younger man. And one of them was Moses from the Bible. He received the 10 Commandments, and when he came off the mountain, his face was glowing, and it was glowing so brightly that they had to put a veil over it. And it stayed that way for like 2 or 3 days before it finally quit glowing. And then there was Jesus himself, who, when he was transfigured, he glowed brightly. So it's not unheard of. Now what are the reasons for this thing being so mad or so upset that it flashed some energy? What would be the reason? He was pushing it hard, perhaps, but I think this is more likely it. This right here is the back of the creature. This occurred after the flash and all that, and it walked a good ways off, and it picked up something right here. And you can see the legs dangling underneath and the little head bobbing up over her shoulder as she's scooping it up. That would be the head right there, the little child's head. Watch it, see it? Coming up, down, up, down, up, down, up. I've got it oscillating. You see the legs swinging down below the arm. That would be the most likely reason why it became so upset. But this capability of releasing, an energy, when you take a photograph, to photograph means to write with light. And you automatically think, film, cameras, lights, flashes. Well, you can also get a photograph in a more natural way. And sometimes some really, really crazy ways. And I'll get into that. Let me move one over. I was going to show, this is an enlargement too. You can see it pretty good right here. So I assume that is that she reproduced at some time. And that if she did, she had to have a, if she was a mammalian, she had to have a husband or a mate. Probably out there somewhere. Now, in this particular one, the individual came home from town, had only been gone a short while, and the back doorknob was pulled off his door. Was laying on the ground. So he set up a game cam to watch the back door, and it took 3 pictures. And these are all stacked and animated. Is it reflecting or is it glowing? If it were reflecting, some areas that are turned away from the camera around a curve would go into a proper exposure, and you'd see them. But everything about this is glowing. And right here you see it's glowing so brightly that it's reflecting onto this building. Look right there. And you can also see it a little bit across this, in the distance against the building. What puzzles me is that it didn't get another photo of it stepping down or leaving or whatever. They just got these 3. And I don't know whether it disappeared, like people say they can, disappeared in a flash of light, or what. I don't know. But I accept the evidence we do have, whether I completely understand it or not. This is a photograph, and that this is it was done the standard way we do that kind of thing. It's 3 photographs. Now, let's discuss another way you can get a photograph in a natural way. Now, this is an asphalt road that was slightly rained on. And this is the part right here. It's drier because it's underneath some boughs of some trees. And right in here in the in-between is a footprint. Big toe, other toes, and then the heels. And it stood there long enough to evaporate that little bit of water that was on it. And when it lifted its foot, it had an image of the bottom of its feet on that asphalt, even though that asphalt had no capabilities of making an impression. It's still a photograph. Now here's another picture of it. You might see it a little better. That's straight down on it. And its foot is off the ground from here to here. The heel's on the ground and the ball of the foot and the toes are on the ground. But in between, that seems to be characteristic of what they call a Bigfoot track. All right. Now, sometime later, in the winter, following winter, it happened right close to there again with this snow. It stepped in a small amount of snow on the road and melted it. And then when it stepped away, it continued to snow for a little while and got another layer in there. But you definitely can see it. Now here's another way a famous picture was taken without a camera, without film. There was no film. This was taken of, they say Jesus, but I don't think that's been proven. But it's an individual that was laying, a deceased individual that was laying in a linen cloth. And this is the part of the linen cloth that was on his face. This is his back. And if you fold this one up to this one, that's how it was. He was in between. You can see it got him pretty sharply. They call this the Shroud of Turin. Yeah, the Shroud of Turin is very famous. It's been damaged. It was in a fire one time, and they managed to rescue it. Let's look at. Here's some stuff that I did to the Shroud of Turin, trying to see what I could see in it. You can see the face, and this is a three-dimensional. In other words, the flash came from a source that was laid over him like this, and it took the single image in 3D. And back here I had I colored in what they were saying was blood, just to see where all it was. Well, let's go back. Now, let's just transfer ourselves over to the year of 2012 and East Texas. And East Texas has become famous for a lot of really weird videos of Bigfoot at this farm. And I went there, and I met with the lady. Her husband had died, and I met with the lady and one of the researchers that had been there over a decade earlier. And I said, well, I want to stand out here where I know I saw a Bigfoot in one of the videos and get you to take a picture, and I'll go home and I'll compare them. I'll line everything up, and just to get an estimate of the height or the tallness. And so he did. And then several years later, I was looking at it. You know, sometimes you just turn around and suddenly you see something that's always been there. And I'll show you. There's me right there. And you've probably seen these videos. This is where the fence climber took place, and some other videos as well. But nobody been out here in 10 or 12 years. And now, look at this. There are two faces on this tree that are in that same weird white stuff that you see sometimes when a Bigfoot puts his hand on a car or on a window pane. And how did it get there? How did it get on this tree? And you also see fingertips right here from a hand. And the lady had already told me that she had seen two different kinds out there. One kind was looking like a human almost, and the other looked very much like an ape. And I see them here, very much in that type of look. This one right here with a mouth all the way across here, very much looking like, you know, some kind of gorilla or ape, primate type. Now let's move over to where I did some filtering on this image. When I saw that, I wanted to see it better. And look. As if they had pressed their face up against it or either gotten close enough. And they had their hand up against the tree on that side. And it got the fingertips and the alignment of the fingers. Great big open gaping mouth with big old teeth. Wide open eyes. And I know the chain of possession because I'm the only one who has this picture. Except that I send it to one other person, and they have it as well. But I know them. I learned my lesson. All right. That doesn't mean something can't happen to it, but it obviously can. But this is something that the whole area out there, the whole farm, was known for things like this. I mean, strange things went on, and they demonstrated that in some of their videos. All right, now let's move over to a trip I made to Bluff Creek, and I was going to be a guide for some Japanese filmmakers. And we went to Bluff Creek and kind of spent 3 or 4 days filming Willow Creek. And Willow Creek is probably 80, 90 miles from where we wanted to be, but they needed that for their documentary, so we did that. And then we went to this restaurant. It's called Bigfoot Restaurant. Used to be called what do you call that? Cinnabar Sam's. Well, they wanted to eat a Bigfoot burger. An enormous hamburger served on grilled garlic, sourdough, barbecue sauce, grilled onions, and cheese. Not a bad price, actually. And so they wanted to eat that. And so we went there, and they ordered it. And this guy that was really kind of heading up the thing, he didn't speak any English, but he was the boss. And he wanted to eat it, so just to give you an idea of what he was eating. Look how small he is. It's the size of that hamburger. And look how they're aghast. He's going to eat the whole thing. But behind him, back over out of view, at another table was a gentleman that was tall. He was tall, young, curly-haired. And he was sitting at a table there, and he asked the waitress for an ink pen, and she got him one, and he went to drawing on a napkin. Oh, he can't believe he was eating the whole thing. And the guy drew for a while, and then he left. He left before us. Okay, and we went out to the car, and we saw that napkin. It was under our windshield wiper. And so we got it out, and this is us looking at it right here. We're in the car. And we didn't really know what to make of these words. These words were not English, but it shows a frame 1 and 2. Frame 1, it hasn't made it to the tree yet, but frame 2, it goes like into the tree, and it does not come out on the other side. It's got a question mark. And then if you go over to the back side, it had this symbol drawn, and we didn't know what that meant either. So I got Igor Burtsev to translate it because he had texted me and told me it was Russian. And it says, I am here. I am here. Old. Klimp means old. And I didn't know this meant old because Igor didn't mention this one. But Scott Nelson and a young lady he was with, experts in languages, and they looked at it, and he said, this does say, I am here, but this says old. So I want to make sure I mention that. It's good to have people that you can lean on, you know, for these difficult things. So what do you get out of this? How can it go into the tree and not come out the other side when it's bigger than the tree? And I think that was the message. So someone who speaks Russian tried to send me a message. And I'm not a Russian, so the impact was slow about getting to me. But now I think it has. So we went on down to Bluff Creek. We found some magnificent tracks down on Bluff Creek. These tracks, it was probably 12 of them, 12 to 15 of them. And then they just stopped. Just 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, boom, whatever, how many were there. They stopped. And I'll show you a picture of it. That's the last one right here. You see they were 4 inches deep, but they did not walk. We couldn't find where they walked off. There's some sand under this. This was in October when the leaves were falling. Let's move on to another one. All right, see this track? That's one of the tracks, and it kind of hit it with a slow motion push, and it built a berm up ahead of it. Broke this stick right here. Wow. Later on that night, we got visited. Something came up, and these guys were awake, but I had fallen asleep, and they were ringing a bicycle bell to keep the bears away. I told them to get a bell. I was referring to a bell, like a jingle bell, you know, you put on a backpack, to let it, with motion of walking, it would, you know, jingle, and the bears would be alerted. But they got a bicycle bell, you know, you move with the thumb on a spring-loaded. And they rang that thing. They took shifts. And they woke me up, and they said, MK, there's something out there. One of them could speak English, and the other one not. I said, I listened for a few minutes, didn't hear anything, and then I heard it. I heard a limb snap. And so I got the flashlight, and I turned it on and ran straight out there to it. Before I could get out there, they were hollering for me to come back. They didn't want anything to happen to me because they didn't think they could get out. And I came back. But I don't think it was a bear. Bears, you run from those bells. This came to the bell. And this same place, we were sleeping real close to these tracks. Later on the next day, they wanted to reenact the Patterson film. And I said, okay. Well, I didn't realize it was so hard, but this is how hard it was. Well, as it turned out, he got water in his camera and his camera wouldn't work anymore, so he had to finish up using my camera. But that was so much fun. It was an adventure. Now, let's talk about that area of Bluff Creek and why it's so sacred. It's sacred Indian land. And what does it have to do with flashes of light? And let me read you a little explanation. This is about the Gasquet to Orleans Road they call the Go Road. And that's up on the ridges. And you can see the peaks from down at Bluff Creek. Excuse me. Let me read it to you. The Siskiyou Mountains are a small range in northwest California and southwest Oregon. In the southern part, they contain parts of the Klamath and Smith River watersheds. These watersheds are the traditional homelands of several Native American tribes, including the Yurok, Karuk, and the Tolowa tribes of northern California. These tribes have considered the high country to be of special spiritual importance since times predating recorded history. Two of the rocks at the peaks of the high country are now called Doctor Rock and Chimney Rock at about 4,000 feet. This region is held to be the center of the spiritual universe. Why? Because it is believed that the original inhabitants of the world, who left just as the humans appeared, climbed up through holes in the sky, and these high peaks are the last places they set foot on earth. Hence the high concentration of spiritual powers here. The high country is the site of a ritual performed individually and involving days of fasting and meditation to obtain spiritual purity amidst silence and undisturbed serenity. The few members of these tribes who feel the call to become medicine people derive their powers during these rites. The medicine people are spiritual leaders and are an integral part of the culture. Although few individuals ever enter these areas, they are of incalculable value to the entire society. So these other type of people left through a hole, went to the stars through a hole in the sky from off those two peaks, and as recent as 2010. As recent as 2010, they formed human chains to keep logging out. But the Go Road, they were so determined to build it because it gave them access to some virgin timber. And that timber was on their spiritual center of their universe. And they fought tooth and nail to keep it from happening. But it did happen. And the Go Road, I traveled the Go Road back in June of, I think this was 2012 as well. And this is a good day on the Go Road. It's a road that never was worth what they had to do to put it there. And when Native Americans get on it, they travel it fast, because if you lollygag around, you might have one of these roll off on you. I don't know, did some Bigfoot push it off, or did it just fall off? I don't know. But there it is. That's the Go Road. Gasket to Orleans. Bluff Creek. Spiritual center of the universe. Now, 2021, Don Monroe and I went to Bluff Creek, and we were clearing the rock side of the road. They weren't big boulders like that, but they were enough to, you didn't want to run over them. So we were clearing them out, and we saw this up ahead. Let's see what this stick is leaning up against this tree. Uh-oh, scuff mark. Look, get back. See him?
Yeah.
That tree leaning up against there.
Yeah. I'll point to that for you.
All right, that's something. Look here, look, Don.
Yep.
Right here.
You stepped here, and there, and there.
You're stepping on it, Don.
No, I'm not.
Your heel is right on it.
Okay, there. Get these hands if you want to.
I don't think a bear put that stick here.
No, it didn't. And these are not bear tracks.
There's some more over here. See? Look at the size of this track.
Unless there's a reason.
Yeah, it's not a bear track.
No, it's not a bear track. There's no bear track.
No, there's no claws.
There's no bear tracks here.
He went down the road here. Look.
Bunch of them.
See him right here?
Yeah. I'm going to put my hand in it for you. You get a picture?
Yeah, don't touch it though.
No, I won't touch it.
Yeah, okay. I've lost it.
Turns right here.
Maybe it went in the bushes, I don't know.
Here it is. Not a bear.
No, not a bear.
That's a tarsal right there.
Look, you can see that stick. Whatever it is left that stick there.
Okay, what we're going to do is that stick there, put by.
Put it right beside it, okay? All right, you got it done. We'll see what happens.
Good picture.
Okay.
Yeah, Pay attention to those rocks that are kind of stacked on each other on the right side there. See where there's. Just pay attention to them.
Okay, what we'll do, because that stick's moving.
That wasn't an
You just
accident.
let a spider loose. I mean, you see that big ugly thing?
If that rock moved, if this rock has moved off of there, we know it was handled.
Oh yeah.
There's the print. There's the print. Where did it come? Where the prints come from? Off the road. They're right here. I think I see toes on this one. Look.
I can see a foot here for sure. It's about a 14-inch.
It could be a bear, but a bear ain't gonna.
It's not a bear.
Bear ain't gonna put a stick up against a tree.
I'm not. We did. That stick's movable.
All right.
Well, we added a stick to it to kind of leave a message back. I took it, and this is my gut impression, that we were looking at some kind of memorial with those stacked rocks and then those sticks leaning against that tree like that, and the tracks and everything around it. It was something that just gave you that feeling. Let's move on. Here's some examples of stacked rocks. This is in the bed of Bluff Creek. Come across this at another time. If you look carefully, there's sand and it's wet right across here. So it's 1, 2, 3, and let's go to the next one. And I lowered the brightness some and boosted the contrast, and you can see creases, palm print right there. Now, understand, there's nobody down here. This is 25 miles from a road, and nobody was down here. And that was fresh enough that they just pulled it out. It was wet,
And I'll show you the other one. That's a hole they left when they pulled that out of there. So, stacking rocks? Yes, they stack rocks. For whatever reason. Maybe multiple reasons. Okay, now this is memorial number 2 we found. All right, Don. This is something similar that we've seen. We saw up there on the 12 and 13 road. This is a little arrangement of stones and some pine trees, sugar pine cones. Also a stick leaning against the tree, which we found on the 12 and 13, remember? On that road, coming in. What are your thoughts? What is it, a blaze? What are we looking at right there?
It's a screwdriver.
Yeah, okay.
Up there, another piece of something.
Screwdriver hammered into the tree all the way down, all the way in.
And here's something else about the distance that's up there tree. When you put something in with your hand, you stick it in almost eye level. Like if you stick a knife in a tree, for example.
So you're saying that being so...
stood that tall up there and did that.
Okay, I'm going to reach as high as I can.
Yeah.
I can touch it. As far as I can reach.
Now, if you don't believe that, take your knife
Look at
out.
that! Look at that right there.
Yeah. Know what that means? You know, that's the same thing bears do. They're not that the tools. They reach up on trees and they scratch. So if something is big enough to put a marker how high they can stand, and this is a possibility. They put the marker on the tree as how high they can reach. Now, if something that high is pretty tall to do that.
Somebody just...
Bears do the same thing. They reach high as they can.
Let me ask you this, considering all possibilities. Could this be a place where someone ran off and died and someone memorialized it?
Well, that's what the thought, but I don't think so. Because it's so wide here and the road's so wide right here.
Well, how do you put something...
Well, this is abstract as can be, but listen a minute. If you, in Sherlock Holmes' books, he tells about this, and it's also in forensic science. When you write on a blackboard, just at random, your name or a number, you write as your eye level usually.
You see, that's Jesus. That's a Jesus.
Yeah,
that's a Jesus statue up there, a plastic one.
It's a cross.
No, above the cross, there's a Jesus, plastic Jesus.
Well, then there's a mixture of things here possible.
Yeah.
But this here right here, let's just jump away from that a minute. The pine cones are the same symbol we found in the other places miles from here.
Right, right.
And the stick's the same, exactly, it's the same kind of symbolism that we found.
Well, that's kind of what caught my eye when I saw it. That stick leaning like it did.
It's the same exact stuff we find there, and they're miles apart.
This is definitely some kind of an arranged stone thing.
Something or somebody has cooperated, maybe possibly in two different facets of imagination. But the thing I'm getting to is to put that in the tree up there, especially the screwdriver is put there, stabbed in the tree like you would a knife. And it's usually stabbed in the tree if you're going to just play with a knife. By stacking it in the tree.
Well, you just about have to have a ladder to put that screwdriver in.
Well, if you're not tall enough to do it.
Yeah.
It's a mystery.
Yeah, okay, well, we can live with that. Let's go see what else we can find. Okay, we were headed for Louse Camp, and that was around one of the bends there in the road. So this road looks good here, but it got really terrible later on. It wasn't a passable road unless you got out and made it passable. Now let's go back across the country, at least over into Nevada. And I took, this was back in 2019, I took infrared videography inside of Lovelock Cave, and how it relates back to a photograph I'll show you. That's Eric Smith, one of the people who went with us. And you can't see his flashlight because it's visible light. This thing only sees heat. Now watch his hand. Watch his hand. There's a photo of his hand on that rock. And the source of energy was his body heat, and the rock was the medium, the film. And so it produced a photograph that only lasted as long as the heat lasted. What I'm looking for is hot spots, and there's two right there. I'll see if I show them again. If it'll get back on them. There, I saw them. They're right up there. I may have to stop this thing. Oh well, let me go back. There's one, I think, right there. But let me just find them. All right, let's just go ahead. So you can't see his flashlight, can't see where it's even at. All right. Now that we were talking the whole time we were in there about bats, let's just go look at them again. Oh well, you don't want to go. Here we go. We had been talking about bats, and they said on there that, well, there hadn't been any bats in here in years. Somebody said it. And while he was talking about the bats, there's one right there. Picked up by the heat camera. Nobody heard him or saw him. But it does kind of make you wonder what all else is unheard and unseen, that we just hadn't got the right instrument, or we haven't got the right line of thought, line of thinking. All right. Now let's move on. Here's those two hot spots, 1 and 2 right here on the side of a boulder inside the cave. Don't know why, but I made a note of them. All right. Took some more infrared at Bluff Creek. And I'm just showing this. I'm going to talk about an experience that we had there with Eric. Eric was sleeping beside me with his Subaru. He just took everything out and was sleeping in the car, and I was sleeping in a tent on the ground, and he said that something ran between me and him, his car, and my tent, and shook the ground. It was so heavy. It woke him up, and he quickly looked out the back. He didn't see anything. And he hollered at me, and I unzipped, and I looked up the hill to my left in this direction that you see here, and I saw flashes of light. And it was like 3 or 4 or 5 of them going up the hill. But I didn't get it on camera. I was not camera ready. So, in 2019, I was that close to maybe filming something that would have cleared this whole thing up, but not quite. All right. There's a little sugar glider that takes off flying. I call it sugar glider. I don't know what it is. A little something that could glide. It came off the tree. Eric Smith's Subaru. And there's Eric Smith. And we had a great time. I hope to do it again. So, or something similar. We've been on, I think, a couple of trips. We've been up to the Jarbidge Wilderness one time with me and him. A really durable fella. He always comes prepared. Now, last thing. It may not have anything to do with Bigfoot, but it's got something to do with cryptid. And this is a petroglyph in Arizona. But what is this? Well, it's obvious that it's a saber tooth. And they were not supposed to even be out there able to draw a petroglyph at the time of saber tooths. There were no petroglyphs. So where did these people who drew the petroglyph, did they see one that had lived alive on the hoof or alive on the feet? Let me tell you what I'm able to get out of it personally. These guys right here are small, and the size of the saber tooth is exaggerated. So that's a meaning of itself. It kind of tells you that these guys are venerating this saber tooth, and they have an arrow with a little curly Q on the shank. That means they're speaking to it. And this right here means the 4 pillars of creation. And so this would be a statement that this is their God. It has become like their God, and they're speaking to it, and they venerate it. And that's my take on it. Saber-tooth in Arizona, I looked it up. There was an actual alleged incident where U.S. Cavalry in 1913 are supposed to have shot 2 of them. What do you do with 2 dead saber-tooths? I don't know. But I'm real interested. This right here speaks to me. It kind of tells me that it may not be over for saber-tooths. Arizona. The 2 dead saber-tooths in Arizona. Everything's saber-tooth-wise, Arizona. All right. Looks like I have just about... There I am. All right. I want to thank y'all for hanging with me. This was done live, and yeah, you can't anyways, I thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, I need to try to make that McMinnville Cryptid Con next year. Over and out.